And we're live here at the Scott Fishbowl 14 New York City Fantasy Football Live Draft Party. No place you'd rather be than the Playwright Celtic on 45th Street and 8th Avenue in the heart of New York City. We're drafting fantasy football. We're raising money for charity. FantasyCares.org to benefit kids and help them get holiday gifts. We've got a Hall of Famer in the house, Rick Wolf. Woohoo! We've got Ryan Hallam from Fantasy Alarm, and you're going to see a cast of characters on this stream as we go here. Rick, how many Scott Fish Bowls have you been at? Congratulations for coming to another one.
Yeah, I've been at 3 Scott Fish Bowls, but I will tell you this. We're right in the heart of Hell's Kitchen, but it's Heaven's Kitchen for me today. I certainly love a place like this to have a draft. 2 live drafts going to be going on down there at any given time, staggered perfectly by Mr. Hallam, and exciting 2 floors, open to the public, so come on out.
Drink specials all day, charity auction to raise money, an amazing patio. Ryan Hallam is the brains behind this event and really put it all together. You've got some of the most passionate fantasy football people in this room, professionals, fans. Doesn't matter today. We're all fantasy football players. Ryan Hallam, thanks for putting this all together.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts is just the people in the industry come down and draft, and then the fans who listen and watch them all the time come down, and they're all, like you said, just all one big group today, and that's awesome. And of course, raising money for charity. We have a great silent auction. We've got some signed jerseys, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. We've got tickets, Yankees tickets, New York Football Club tickets, Brooklyn Cyclones tickets. So we are all over New York today, raising money again for Fantasy Cares and Break the Hold.
Amazing. And Scott Fish Bowl drafts happening all over, not just New York, not just the United States of America, all over the world. I've seen drafts in Lithuania, in Barcelona, in Brazil, in London, in Hawaii, and Mexico City. Even Buffalo, New York has a draft. I don't know how this thing has grown, but Scott Fish has done tremendous work, and the fantasy football community should be commended for coming together to support this amazing charity. I've never seen anything like it. Rick, you've been around a lot longer, no offense, than anybody. But tell us, have you ever seen the industry, the community, not just the businesses and the companies, but the fans? Have you ever seen everyone come together like this?
Well, it has a lot to do with Scott Fish's passion also, right? So, like I had a heart event when I was 46 years old. He had a heart issue when he was a decade younger, and he decided to start giving back. It's one of the reasons that I started giving back too. So, and he understands this live event is to support Break the Hold. So, go to breakhold.org to check that out. But we understand also that youth wellness is important. We are about the kids. Toys for Tots has gotten lots and lots of money from Fantasy Cares. So FantasyCares.org is the place you should go to check out what charities they are. And Scott Fish is just a great human to be able to do this day in and day out and just try to give back constantly.
Not only Scott, but also John Bosch, Bob Gilchrist, Russ Fisher, who's here. I'm going to go grab him in a second so he can get talked about Fantasy Cares. But yeah, just a great day. So let me grab Russ, see what's going on here. You guys have a good time. I'll be back in a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll talk about the Corleone draft, which is happening right now just on the other side of the bar. And we've got some of the best fantasy football players in the business having a good time with these unique rules, which we're about to go through. But we'll set the table with some of the fantasy football community that is in this draft, of course, named after The Godfather. We'll get Rick's pick on where The Godfather ranks. Well, might as well do it right now. Where does The Godfather rank all time?
I would say The Godfather. Well, what? In what genre?
For The Godfather, it's got to be any movie.
For any movie, I think The Godfather is probably number 2.
Wow.
And I think the Martin Scorsese, The Departed, is the best movie of all time.
Wow. All right, so the Corleone draft, of course, all the Scott Fish Bowl divisions named after movie characters. I'm in the Andy Dufresne division, my friend Andy. And Bobby Cables is in the house, so now it's officially a party. Woo! Bobby Cables is here. And is going to help us raise a lot of money for FantasyCares.org. So we have RotoViz represented, RotoBaller, of course, Fantasy Alarm with the great Joe Galena, Anthony Aniano's here with RotoBaller, Stevie G with Rum Boys and Big Guy Fantasy, and the SFB Podathon, the amazing work that is done by the Scott Fish Bowl Foundation to go over 24 hours with a live podcast. And it's a who's who of the industry. Sal Lito hosts that thing. We call him the Marathon Man. And he's here drafting out of the number 12 spot in the Corleone League. So, Rick, why don't you run us through these unique rules, and then we'll talk about the results.
The real important thing is you need to understand how the receptions are handled. So it's a half-point PPR for running backs, a full point for wide receivers, and then a 1.5 for tight ends. So you got to make sure you go get your tight ends. Then there's also points for first downs. So tight ends, again, score a lot of first downs. Wide receivers scoring a lot of those 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 7s. So you got to get the guys who get first downs. You want to get the bullbacks, in the backfield who are going to carry the ball and get those first downs. So that's a critical point. This year added punt return and kick return yards, which makes a lot of things very interesting. And I have a short list of 7 or 8 players who will be starting at the wide receiver or backup running back position, and then will also be returning kicks and punts. So you get 1 point for every 5 yards return yards. That can add up. I mean, think about a 30-yard kickoff return is now a touchdown. So you really have to think about these guys. Your Rashid Shaheed and Khalil Shamar from Shamir.
Khalil Shakir, my guy from Buffalo. Is he going to return kicks for them?
I'm Roman Maroney over here wrecking people's names. I never forget a Fargan base kid. So, but yeah, you have to know about the return yards. It's very important, especially late in rounds. We're seeing guys. I think Shaheed went in the 6th round in the draft that I'm in currently. My draft is currently in the 13th round. Those tight ends ripped off the board uncomfortably for me, and I ended up with none. I didn't end up with tight end until like the 7th or 8th round, and they were all off the board in the 2nd and 3rd round. You can see that happening right now in the Godfather League here. So.
The special teams return yards is interesting, and it makes players, not just receivers who play, but running backs too, return kicks. I'm interested to see if Antonio Gibson gets some play in New England returning kicks, but our industry dynasty leagues, a lot of them play return yards, and I've been making my money with punt returns because kickoff returns didn't really happen in the NFL up until this year, so it's really all about punt returns. And my guy Khalif Raymond in Detroit, not only does he catch a pass here and there, but he returns kicks, and it is some hidden points. And also the kickers are interesting because you're getting 3.3 points for extra points in this format. 3.3 is more than, let's say, a 27-yard field goal would be. Plus, if you find the teams that score a lot of touchdowns and go for 1 instead of 2, you might do well with kickers. Now, I don't see kickers going very high in this format. I haven't looked a lot. I saw a couple in the 14th, 15th round. Is anybody jumping kickers?
No, I mean, I'm planning to jump for Aubrey. I think he's the only one there. And there are really only 4 kickers that I think in Santos, Myers, and believe it or not, Matt Gay, who Matt Gay will probably go very, very late, but he's going to score a lot of points, and he kicks the long ones. And the long ones get the extra points for sure. So one more little thing about the format. It's a 3rd round reversal snake draft. So the Sal Leto over there just got the first pick in the 3rd round, as well as getting the first pick in the 2nd round. So, and I think that's an important point, and I think it's a great thing that Scott Fishbowl does, because you can really get at a real disadvantage, when you have that first pick, and and you end up being able to get a 2nd and 3rd round pick by getting that first pick in the 3rd round. You get a huge advantage. I'm picking that advantage taken away.
Yeah, I was picking in the 8th spot, and I love that 3rd round reversal. Really helped me. Let's give you some results here of the Corleone draft before we bring in Russ Fisher from fantasycares.org. We've also had a royalty sighting. The king is in the house. Scott Engel is here. And we can't have a party without Scott. He's got his Seahawks gear on. Of course, you're going to be hearing from Scott and watching what he does with his picks. I'm sure he's got some strategy in this format. Scott likes to fill it out. He likes to have one player at the quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver, and the tight end, right? He likes to have an anchor on all of them. He's not going to do any of these starting with 4 straight receiver setups. I guarantee you that. In the Corleone, is it Corleone or Corleone? I know the Senator and the Godfather couldn't get it right either, but what is it? Corleone. Excuse me. So in the Corleone draft, we have Jalen Hurts, the number 1 overall. Anthony Richardson was the number 1 in my league. Who was number 1 for you?
In my number 1 was Hurts in my league. Yeah.
Josh Allen, number 2. Lamar Jackson, number 3 in this super flex format. Patrick Mahomes, 4. Anthony Richardson, 5. CJ Stroud, 6. And then Christian McCaffrey drops in at running back with the number 7 pick. CeeDee Lamb, number 8 overall. Bijan Robinson, 9. Breece Hall, 10. Yet to see a receiver until Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, drafted in the number 11 spot, and then Justin Jefferson to Sal Lito in the 12. And just to give you the context of how these teams are being built, Sal paired Justin Jefferson up with Kyler Murray. The number 11 team with Tyreek Hill went Jamar Chase, and the Breece Hall team at 10 went Amon Ross St. Brown, and the Bijan team took Barkley. So we have 2 running backs, a running back receiver, a 2 receiver team, and a receiver QB team, Rick, at the back half.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing was pairing Richardson with Jonathan Taylor. If you're banking in all on the Colts, I think you got a lot there. The number 5 team there went for that. We should get Russ in, though.
Let's get Russ in here, treasurer of fantasycares.org. Come on in here. Come on the camera. I didn't ask you how to spell your last name. Is it with a C or no?
No C.
No C. So we'll just pop you on right here. Russ Fisher. He's the treasurer of fantasycares.org. You grace us with your presence. And to have you here, and how many events have you been to? I mean, obviously, talk about what putting this together is. I mean, Scott Fishbowl worldwide and fantasycares.org, the great work you do raising money. So please let everyone know what you do, what fantasycares.org does.
Well, Fantasy Cares is really here to push the idea of adding a charitable element to, fantasy football is clearly our biggest deal, but it's fantasy sports in general. It's all silly money we play with. All right, well, it's silly money I play with. I know there are some high-stakes leagues that it's not silly money. But, take one buy-in, donate it to charity. If it's Fantasy Cares, that's awesome. We'd appreciate it. But, anyone, anywhere, it's a game. It's silly money, and, we could do a lot of good. How many fantasy football leagues do you think there are out there? Hundreds of thousands. You down $1 per league, and how much good you can do. No less a full buy-in or more. All the leagues I run, 2.5 buy-ins go to charity. Again, the winner chooses. I tell them the same thing. If you wanted, you could give it to Fantasy Cares, and we would greatly appreciate it. But anywhere, anyone, close to your heart, that's all that matters. Is doing good when you can.
There is no bigger cause that the fantasy football industry rallies behind than the Scott Fishbowl and fantasycares.org. In my years, I'm getting to be an old man. I've never seen anything like it. And it's not just about draft day, right? This is obviously a full season event where everybody participates. We've been trending on Twitter, or X, for months, and that will continue throughout the season. So after draft day, what happens?
Oh, you get to breathe. That's the great part. I actually don't have what it takes to draft live. I'm in a slow draft. We are round 12-ish by now, so I am well past the anxiety of messing up the beginning of my draft. I get to sit here and make fun of everyone else's terrible decisions because my terrible decisions are in the past already.
It's a good. Let's talk worldwide here. Okay. We have Europe, we have South America represented, yes. We have Canada, yes. It's Barcelona, London, Mexico City. What 2 cities in Brazil were we in?
Sao Paulo is only in Brazil, and then there's Lithuania. We are distraught not to have Australia. We need someone to run it. That's what it comes down to. Is we have all of these countries of people saying, "What about us?" Like, look, there's been interest all over the world. It's finding that one person that wants to actually just set it all up. Like, we have Ryan Hallam here who just set up a beautiful event that's going on right now. So if you're interested, go to scottfishbowl.com and there's a live interest form. And on there, you can click a button that says you're interested in running one of them.
So amazing to watch the pictures. I saw the London draft and Lithuania, Hawaii, Mexico City. And what's next for fantasycares.org and the Scott Fishbowl?
Oh, bigger and better. How do you improve on the beautifulness that is Scott Fishbowl? All you can do is just keep going. There's only about 4,000 people drafting in Scott Fishbowl this year, which is crazy because 2-3 years ago, it was like 1,200. So bigger and better and further, more live drafts, more cities, more countries, more towns, more everything. That's all there is. More and more.
Do you get involved with who plays, who gets invited? Is that just Scott? Are you involved with that?
There is a cohort of people. I am not on the important end of that one. I still have to beg and plead to get some people. It's like, look, come on. So no, if you want to get in, but asking me is not really going to help you that much. Sorry, but there is a group of people that make that big decision. We're
here with Russ Fisher, the treasurer of fantasycares.org at the Scott Fishbowl 14 New York City live fantasy football draft party at the Playwright Celtic. Is it Celtic, Rick Wolf, or is it Playwright Celtic on 45th Street and 8th Avenue? We're raising money for charity. Now, people hear charity. It's a cynical world, Russ. You probably know better than me. People get skeptical. People are worried. What's happening to the money? Is it 100% going to where it's supposed to go? Tell people what's happening. I didn't put you up to this. Tell people what happens to their money and all the money, what it's used for.
Well, I mean, just to, pat ourselves on the back a little bit, we have hit about $350,000 brought into Fantasy Cares so far this year, which is more than we made last year. So thank you, everybody, for all of that. And, as a 501c3 charity, which we are, means, hey, tax deductible donations. All of our stuff is, out in the public, everything we spend on. We have an insanely low overhead percentage. Almost 90% of every dollar that comes in goes out to charities. Of course, if you know about Fantasy Cares, our biggest venture is the Toys for Tots shopping in December. Last year, over $100,000. We are a national sponsor for Toys for Tots. 20 cities around the country. And, unfortunately, Toys for Tots is just an American-based charity. But, we are trying to find other charities worldwide to just, like we said, the only way we can go is bigger, better, and further out. And that's what we're trying to do.
What an amazing job you guys do. And it's so much fun to watch Scott Fish go shopping for the kids and do the toys and the smiles that light up on their faces. I mean, you cannot put a value on that. Really amazing work. And tell us about your fantasy football leagues. Who are you drafting this year?
Well, so let's get specific on Scott Fishbowl. I am in the Han Solo and Chewbacca division. I say unfortunate, I got invited early, clearly. And so I had choice of almost every division. And it's so overwhelming to just scroll that list of everyone. And I hit Star Wars and I'm like, good enough for me. Good enough for me.
Yeah.
And I picked the 101 and I heard the 101 in this draft was Jalen Hurts. That's who I went with. I wanted Christian McCaffrey, but again, just didn't have what it took to not draft a quarterback 101 in a Superflex league.
Yeah, I get it. And good luck with that. I mean, it's so much fun to draft in this league and see how it plays out and build a team. Russ, we really appreciate you joining us. You'll be here all day. Come on down and hang out with us and play some fantasy football and raise some money and have some drinks. I mean, we're having a good time here. A lot of us got away from our families. Of course, this is a family event. But some of us who are with our families 24/7, it's nice to get away. And we're having a good time at the Playwright Celtic on 45th and 8th. Thank you, Russ. Thanks for all the work you do.
Thank you.
Let's bring in the king. Come on in here, Rick Wolf. Let's get Scott Engel in here. And we can welcome the royalty here. My good friend, Scott Engel. Here we go. We do it every year. I've learned a lot from this man. And not just about fantasy football, but about life also. You're looking good. You're still doing it. You're a Hall of Famer, and you're back at the Scott Fish Bowl 14 live draft party in New York City.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot from you. It's great to be here. Always good to be on with you, Matt. This is going to be fun. I'm glad to be here representing Rotoballer and Seahawks.com, and looking forward to this every year. It's a great live event. That Ryan Hallam puts on every year.
Sure is, and you do great work at Rotoballer, and of course we see you all over the media world on radio and on video, and you're really a wordsmith when it comes down to it, and a great writer.
Thank you.
Last year we were at this event, and in your league, Tua Tagovailoa went number 1 overall. It shocked the world. You were thrilled. I think you took Josh Allen at 4, if I remember. Who'd you do?
I did do Josh Allen, and look, in Scott Fish Bowl, you always have to be ready for the unexpected because you have to treat it like a high-stakes draft because it's such a large tournament field. So you got to treat it like the FFPC or the National Fantasy Football Championships. If you want to go aggressive on somebody because you believe in him, push him up the board, take him, don't care about what consensus might say, etc. What I did was I usually don't do it, Matt. You talk about I want to get my anchors. Last year, I actually waited on the second quarterback, and I took Jordan Love and Bryce Young in like the 10th and the 11th. I said, one of these two has to hit, and Love hit.
You sure did, and it'll be interesting this year. I mean, everybody on Anthony Richardson, the major helium pushing him up the board. Tell us how you handled this, Scott. There's a lot of hype on a player year in, year out. You've been around. You've seen it all. Fans, experts. We're all jumping on a player. This year it's Anthony Richardson. We can't take him high enough. So does that move the needle with you at all? Are you more likely to buy into a player because other people are taking him?
I always go with my own, outlooks as much as I respect other people, Matt. I have Richardson ranked 5th at running back right now. Now, a lot of people take Stroud over Richardson because he had that big year last year, and now, they add Stephon Diggs. He's got 3 great wide receivers. But Richardson over a full year has way more rushing upside, and I prefer that. It's kind of like a Robert Griffin III kind of thing, though, where you notice as a Washington fan, you have to be concerned about how much he exposes himself to big hits. I don't know if they're going to change his rushing style. I don't think they're going to. They did bulk up the receiving corps more with Adonai Mitchell. So my outlook on Richardson is I'll take him 5th, but then I want to make sure that I get a pretty good backup. If I'm in a 1-quarterback league, maybe I want to get Aaron Rodgers. If I'm in a 2-quarterback league, believe it or not, I'll wait on Daniel Jones as my 3rd because, look, I'm here in New York. I just had Daniel Jones. People are going to bum rush me for supporting the guy probably at this bar. But, Daniel Jones, let's not forget he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback 2 years ago, still has rushing upside. And with Malik Neighbors and Jalen Hyatt, who I think are sleepers, this could be the year.
Players like this can win or lose your league for you, of course. Daniel Jones, you heard it from the King. There's players in the similar, Derek Carr. There's players that are similar out there. Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh. If any of these guys hit, you've got a huge advantage. So is Daniel Jones your pick out of that tier of quarterbacks that we'll call on the trash heap that you think could turn something around this year?
I think it's either going to be him or Drew Lock, because if he doesn't, in a superflex, I would take Drew Lock as a 4th quarterback because sometimes in these superflex leagues, Matt, you want to handcuff your quarterback. If Jones doesn't get it done, Lock really worked out the rough edges of his game last year, and if he throws a great deep ball, if he could work with Hyatt and Neighbors, he could be the answer. I'm not being a homer here, but I see a real rebound year for Geno Smith with a new offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, and he's got Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jiggle for a breakout year, and Tyler Lockett's still going to be dependable.
People are down on Seattle as far as I see. I do not see players being drafted high from that team. DK Metcalf, probably your first one off the board, but you just got a little inside peek from someone who knows the Seahawks better than anybody from SeattleSeahawks.com, Scott Engel. So how would you rank the receivers? Are they all going to be able to eat this year? All 3 of them? Is it going to be DK and then Jackson Smith and Jigba and Lockett are going to split the rest? Is it going to be – tell us what you think, how you rank these receivers and how someone should go about drafting them in Seattle.
You can get Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba as values, Matt. In my FSGA draft on SiriusXM, I didn't intend to get both Seattle wide receivers. People rib me for being a homer. But in the 3rd round – I took DK Metcalf. It was a 14-team league. I thought that was good value because Ryan Grubb is going to open up the offense more, try to look for more big plays, going to move him around more. His ECR on Fantasy Pros right now is 21, but I have him ranked a few spots higher than that. He's got high-end wide receiver 2 upside. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I couldn't resist the value in the 8th round because this guy kind of reminds me of Doug Baldwin in a way, where Doug Baldwin was so underrated and can challenge defenses at every level. Jackson Smith and Jigba was prized for a breakout year. Tyler Lockett going to be a better real-life player, I think, than fantasy player. Will still get the job done. But if you can get Metcalf in the 3rd or 4th, Smith and Jigba in the 8th, and Noah Fant, because he really doesn't have any challengers for that tight end job this year, he's a good backup tight end. So I think people are underrating the Seahawks fantasy-wise.
I mean, you would know better than me. Do you see Metcalf? Where did he get drafted in this Corleone division? We're drafting live at the Playwright Celtic on 45th and 8th. We're looking at the Corleone draft right now. I thought Metcalf was taken because I did a search, but maybe not. Deebo Samuel just went in the 4th round, and Drake London went in the 4th round as well. So we'll continue to find this round for you. Currently, Tua Tagovailoa, the last quarterback off the board in the Corleone division. taken in the 4th round. So here's how the quarterbacks broke down. First round QBs: Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud. 6 in a row, and then not another quarterback in the first round, which we're seeing a lot of. Then the second round: Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Jaden Daniels, the rookie from Washington, second round QBs. Then Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, and Joe Burrow in the 3rd round, followed by 4th round, Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, and Caleb Williams. So when you see these quarterbacks, tell the people at home, you heard the rankings, how they went off. What do you see as far as the value? Who did well? Who was taken too early? Who was taken too late?
So you said Hurts went first overall of Allen, which is interesting. But again, then again, if you believe in that, you have to aggressively push a guy up the board. A lot of it went by chalk in the first round, but to me, Allen's the clear number one. Yes, he lost Diggs and he lost Davis, but Diggs didn't have a good year last year. Allen has been a top 2 fantasy quarterback in each of the last 4 years. And he's still going to have to carry a lot of that offense. They don't have an authentic goal line back, so he's number one to me. I think Trevor Lawrence was a little bit early. He's still got to prove it. And also, I like where Jordan Love went as well. You get some value on Tua Tagovailoa. What's interesting is, as Fantasy Pros has pointed out, in the first half of last year, Tua Tagovailoa was QB5. In the second half, he was QB20. If he can put together a full season this year, that's really good value in the 4th round.
No doubt. And I can't wait to see how the middle of this draft plays out. Of course, we'll be drafting all day, and we'll be here all night. So never too early, never too late to come down here. Let's talk handcuffs one more thing before we get into the holiday gifts, because I can't wait to hear what your favorite holiday gift was growing up when you were a kid, Scott. And now that you're a dad, the favorite gift that you've given your fine young Sean Engel. But let's talk handcuffs. I have Mark Andrews. I reached for him, quote, reached for him as the second tight end in the 2nd round. I think he could be the tight end 1 in this format. Should I be handcuffing him with Isaiah Likely?
I certainly would consider it. In a draft like this where tight end handcuffs become much more important, I really believe if somebody's going to soar up the board, it's going to be Dalton Kincaid. A lot of fantasy analysts know why. It's not a bad pick at all. I wouldn't take him over Kelsey necessarily, and I know we know Laporte's all the number one. He's the number one. But wherever you can handcuff a tight end because you believe the tight end 2 might have some value, like in Green Bay, I think you have to do that. But then you got to look at your value tight ends. I mentioned Fant. Jelani Woods is an interesting name with Indianapolis. Very athletic. Has been curtailed by injuries, but very athletic. Indianapolis has not moved to replace him, and a young quarterback will very often look to his tight end.
What about Ty Conklin? This is not a question you normally lead with any sexy sizzle here, but with Aaron Rodgers feeding this tight end, I mean, this guy's value is in the toilet. He seems capable. Is he on your radar at all?
Not really, and it wouldn't be a Matt Deutsch segment without the word sizzle. So now I know who I'm with and where I am. But to me, Tyler Conklin, Aaron Rodgers, of course, hopefully he stays healthy, but he's going to be looking to his wide receivers. Tyler Conklin, had some respectable quarterbacking in the past and has never been a factor. I don't see any upside for him. It's the other guy I'm very skeptical of, and everybody likes him, is Mike Gesicki. This guy, for people who play fantasy baseball like Rick Wolf, this is the Cabrian Hayes of fantasy football. Every year we hear Mike Gesicki's going to break out. We've been hearing it for 6 years now, that he's very athletic, that he's a matchup nightmare. I can't do it again. I just can't do it again. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it, but I can't do Mike Gesicki. I'm wrong, but Cincinnati, the tight end's not a premier read either. It's just I'm off on Mike Gesicki.
Now, it's Jonnu Smith forever. If you've been following me, you know I can't quit this guy. And this is the first tight end that Miami actually brought in voluntarily, right? They went to get this guy. They did not inherit him. A lot of speed on this team. A lot of ways to go with the football. But Jonnu's going to play. Could you see him factoring into some of your rosters?
Maybe as a backup. He's always been a good blocker. I think that's why they have him. And he could have a few spike games here and there because once in a while you get a spike game that you don't expect from a Miami tight end. But I don't think you'll be able to rely on him. And he's not somebody I'm be targeting the tight end premium league like the Scott Fishbowl or the Fantasy Football Players Championship.
Let's talk fantasycares.org. We're raising money for charity. We're going to help some kids get some holiday gifts. They're in need. They're not going to have gifts unless we step up. So all the fine people in this room taking their passion for fantasy football, coming together to celebrate and raise some money with our silent auction for some of the best merchandise, not only in fantasy sports, but sports in general. I see a Tampa Bay Buccaneers beautiful white signed football over there. I see a jersey in the back corner. I see
Might
football.
be Garrett Wilson.
The whole bar is lined up with silent bidding auction, and the sun is out in the Big Apple, and we can go upstairs on the patio and have a good time and have some cocktails. But let's talk holiday gifts. What was the favorite gift that you had growing up, Scott, that when your parents got it for you, you remember it at this age, but made you light up and you played with all the time?
It's not something I played with. It's something I wore all the time. A New York Knicks starter jacket. It's what I wanted more than anything. And, you know, with the classic New York on it, etc. I'm a big Knicks fan, and, you know, I'll bite my lip and draft to the Celtic pub today. It's okay. I understand. This is a great place. I've been here before. This is Rick's house, but I think that was one of my favorite gifts.
Wow. Well, amazing. And I can only imagine having you in that blue jacket. Was it the blue jacket with the orange trim?
It was blue with the orange trim. And I think they still sell them there nowadays. The starter jackets have made a comeback. I actually have about 4 different Seattle Seahawks classic starter jackets.
Well, let's raise some money and get some starter jackets for the kids out there. What about your son, Sean? What gift do you recall that you gave him that he really wanted?
Sean is a big NASCAR guy, as you know. You can check out his NASCAR analysis on fantasyguru.com and also on Rotoballer. He's won 14 DFS tournaments on DraftKings. Getting him anything NASCAR related, like Ryan Blaney and Bubba Wallace are best friends.
Wow.
So I got him both Funko Pop figures. And
What
I
is
also
that?
got
What
him
is
a
that?
Jeff Gordon Funko Pop where he's in his number 24.
Wow. Well, that's what it's all about, really, is raising money for kids, and we're so glad to do it. We're so glad to have you here, Scott.
I'm
You're a
always
good
glad to be
friend.
with you, Matt.
You're amazing to the industry, and you do great work, quality work.
Thank you.
And we're all following you at rotoballer.com and seattleseahawks.com. And how many leagues are you going to play in this year?
Last year, I cut down to 15.
That's right about where I am now. So we'll see you on the waiver wire, and you'll have a lot of fun with that. And when are you drafting today? How can people follow your draft?
1:30. I am in the KGB league based on the movie Rounders.
Yeah, I didn't see that movie.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm in the league, so I'll have to see it. You know, there wasn't a Rocky / Creed league, so I ended up in this one.
Well, if there was a fantasy draft of Rocky Balboa movie characters, who is your favorite? Who is the 101? I mean, it has to be Sylvester Stallone, Rocky Balboa, I'm guessing. Who is your favorite?
I love Sylvester Stallone, but rest in peace to Carl Weathers. Apollo Creed is one of my favorite all-time movie characters. Great supporting actor. Rocky 3, just love how he flipped the script. Rocky 4 is very hard for me. I still cannot watch Apollo Creed's death. But I will recommend any Rocky fans, if you haven't seen it yet, Matt, watch the director's cut of Rocky 4.
Oh.
It's through a totally different lens, and I like it even better than the original.
Oh, well, I mean, that is my number one treadmill soundtrack and has always been. I mean, Hearts on Fire, Rocky Balboa running up the mountain. You can't do any better than that. It's going to really pump your blood.
I have an idea for an Apollo Creed prequel series. I'm not looking to make money off of it, but somebody's just got to get me talking to Michael B. Jordan because I have a great idea for him.
When it comes to Rocky, we know you're a big fan. You got a big heart. Scott Engel, thank you for joining our live stream here at the Playwright Celtic on 45th and 8th and at the Scott Fishbowl live fantasy football draft party.
All right. Bobby Cables is here, so I know we can get started,
Bob, you want to come on in here?
Sure, why not?
Come on in here and say hello.
I didn't think I could feel worse about my physique until this guy comes along. We'll both feel like
He's a big man. We know he's got a big heart. Bobby Cables here of SiriusXM fame. Raising hell with fantasy football. John Hanson, the guru in the morning. Bobby, you're here again in New York. I know this cause means a lot to you.
It does. It's like, if you think about it, it brings awareness to a lot of unfortunate people who have to go through some hard times. And then the Scott Fishbowl, he's like brought all walks together. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like the amount of money that's probably been raised, the Toys for Tots. My specific story with Toys for Tots was
Tell us.
I got activated in the military, and I got activated right around November, and you don't get paid right away. And I just remember thinking, come December, I had to pay back payments on my car payment, insurance, because that doesn't go away. But the bottom line is where was I going to get toys for the kids? And I woke, it was like Christmas Eve. I came home and there was nothing but all kinds of toys out there because of Toys for Tots. So if you think about what Scott has been enrolled with from the beginning, it's everything. So
that is
there's
so special.
1,000 auctions. There's all kinds of prizes. It's just a good thing to be in. And we're playing fantasy football. It kicks off the season. So
No doubt. Now tell us, we know you got a lot of strong opinions. Who are you drafting this year?
I was thinking about cheerleaders. Anybody. You know what's funny? When you go to the gym, think about the analytics behind everybody. They put a player on. They don't look at a physically fit player, but they don't even understand the analytics behind going through one of their workouts. So I think going through the gym, realizing with DK Metcalf, the shape he has to be in. If you think about the shape he has to be in the physical exercise, go do a gym workout. Number one, your body changes. You become a better version of yourself. You got the mind clarity. You start to tap into all kinds of different thought processes and stuff in your dreams. You chip away at little small goals, big dreams. You have shows and this was you. This, you know what I'm saying? Your vision is clear. And then you have this vision of clarity that I'm going to take Barkley at number one because he's got the biggest thighs in the NFL. I don't know. But I don't know. Just you gotta tap into their workouts, and in return, you add your analytics to it and your heart.
Now, which league are you drafting in this
I think
today?
KGB.
KGB. What pick do you have this
I
today?
think I have number 10.
Number 10. So in the Corleone draft, number 10 was Breece Hall with a running back. Before Breece Hall went, the running backs are Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson. Let me share my screen here with the audience so that we can show everybody the draft board. And we can figure out what Bobby's going to do and what some of the consensus is. So 3 running backs in the first round. CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, and Justin Jefferson, the 3 receivers in the first round. Then Hurts, Allen, Jackson, Mahomes, Richardson, Stroud, the quarterbacks in the first round. Are you not going to take a QB at 10?
I don't think I'm going QB. I like to because if you looked at the scoring, the QBs are going to get less this year for completions. Running backs are going to get more. So I might go running back just to be different because I'm different.
Well, of course, we're getting points for carries.
Yeah.
Quarter point for a carry, half a point for a first down. So, it's going to elevate these running backs that can move the chains and can catch the ball. Guys like Derrick Henry, I think, are tremendously undervalued this year. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting with Barkley, your friend Saquon, because he's got to deal with Jalen Hurts. But we saw that tush push be much less effective at the end of the year. We saw Jalen Hurts starting to get into position of vulnerability where teams are taking shots at him and pulling him off the pile. So maybe it won't be so much rushing in Philadelphia.
You know what? And then you got Barkley there. But I think at the end of the day, though, you got to be different. You can't follow the analytics. You got to listen to your heart. If you sit there and you draft what you guys are telling us should be done, chances are, if you look at somebody's team from the past couple of years, they zigged when everybody was zagging. So who knows? I think at the end, I'm not going. I like going quarterback later, and everybody looks like I'm an idiot. But then I'm 7-0 at the beginning of the year. So
well, who is the quarterback that you're eyeing? The King, Scott Engels, got his eye on Daniel Jones late, and we're going to let you go after this.
Yeah,
Tell us who's that quarterback that's going to pop.
I would be if I can get Purdy or, I'm not even golf. I'm not even scared to get them later and then load up at the beginning.
You're not going to be able to get them that later, though. These guys are going to go in by the 4th round.
Well, I'm going to flex, and everybody's not going to grab my quarterback. That's it.
Your second quarterback later.
Second quarterback.
Well,
if I get Chase and come around and get, Burrows, I'm happy with it.
All right, but you wait. You're talking second round. You're not talking 7th round, 8th round.
No, I know. I know what you're talking about, but
all right.
They're listening. I can't tell them.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. Come on out to the Playwright Celtic and see Bobby Cables drafting fantasy football. Got a beautiful patio. Rick Wolf joins us here. What's going on in the bar? You've been working. I'm sure you're buying a lot of drinks.
Yeah, I'm trying to send people upstairs. It's beautiful upstairs on the rooftop here at the Playwright Celtic. Again, 732 8th Avenue. It is open to the public here, and it's quiet. It's quieter up on the other floor. It's 10 degrees cooler in the actual bar area, and then outside, if you want to go outside, the sun is shining here in New York City in Times Square. So just fantastic stuff there. So
now we've got even more incentive for you to come down here. Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio will be live broadcasting from this event at 3 Eastern. Jimmy, watch this mic right here. And Anthony Aniano, the great Anthony Aniano, we call him the professor, will be carrying us live 3 to 5 on the radio, Sirius XM Fantasy. Come on down and meet Anthony. And then in the 5 o'clock Eastern hour, we are going to hook up with Fantasy Alarm coverage of the Scott Fish Bowl in 3 cities at the same time. We're going to do New York. Our friend Howard Bender in San Francisco will be joining us from the left coast. And Colby Conway from Charlotte. We'll hook up with him as well. And we'll do a 3-city hookup. So lots of fun today. Did you hear Russ Fisher from fantasycares.org, Rick? They have raised over $350,000 this year.
yeah, no, I heard. And that's because this is blowing up and everybody's getting on board. The fantasy community is just the most generous community there is. And it's so great to see everybody jump onto one place. Now you know you're giving to a reputable charity that doesn't have a lot of overhead. It's going to make sure that the kids get the money and the charities get the money. And so that's why Break the Hold has attached themselves to Scott Fish Bowl as well.
Wow. And we're, of course, going to see Philadelphia, I believe, goes off tomorrow, the Scott Fish Bowl. And then next week, Boston on Sunday is going to have a huge celebration of the Scott Fish Bowl and, of course, our Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association Summer Conference coming together in Beantown to raise more money and have some fun up there. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I'm getting there on Saturday night and not leaving till Wednesday. So I'm going to make sure that I have a good time in Boston and try to get my rest after we party all night.
Party all night. That sounds good to me. Let's dive into this Corleone draft. We'll get Rick Wolf, the Fantasy Sports Hall of Famer's insight here into all the picks so you could prepare for your leagues at home. Now, don't try this at home if you're not playing in a super flex league with 6 flex positions and a quarter point for rushing attempts and half point for PPR for running backs and full point for wide receivers and a 1.5 for tight end and return yards and special premium for kickers. Don't try this at home. But you can learn some valuable insights for your home league. So looking at this draft board in the Corleone division, we're almost through the 6th round here. What's jumping out to you?
Yeah, well, the quarterbacks are going as I would expect them to go. There's a few less tight ends than went in my draft. The tight ends were pulled off the board very, very fast. You notice that you're getting pretty good value when you're getting Andrews in the 3rd round. He was gone well before that in my draft. So, and then even getting a George Kittle, all the way into the 5th round. You're starting to see value on that. The running backs is interesting to me because I found in my draft also the running backs went late, like a bell cow running back like Rashad Stevenson, going in the 5th here in the 6th round. James Cook going in the 6th round. I mean, these are good values people get on running backs. Everybody's going quarterback and tight end early.
I took Stevenson myself on my team. I'm not afraid of Antonio Gibson. I like the player, but I've lost on him 3 years in a row. They gave him the money. I think that offense is going to be somewhat slow, at least early in the year, and I think Ramondre can do it all, and he's a workhorse back that is being his value's in the toilet. Yeah. So I love that pick here in the 6th round. And then, we all talk about the dead zone of running backs. We might be there already in the 6th round. You mentioned Cook and Stevenson with Joe Mixon. In the 5th round, just Rachaad White. And in the 4th round, it was Josh Jacobs, ETN, and A-Chain. So now, where do we go from here with the running backs? You've got backs like Kamara, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, James Conner. You could argue leagues are going to get won or lost right here.
I like Swift this year a lot. So, and don't sleep on these guys. And so that means like my strategy. I don't know if you know my strategy. I took Mahomes, and then I took 2 running backs because I took Jonathan Taylor, and then Saquon Barkley fell into the 3rd round to me. So started with Mahomes, Taylor, Barkley, which seemed like a great start, but I missed all the tight ends because of that, right? So there's always a sacrifice you have to make in order to be able to build your team the way you want to. And you need to be careful as to that, especially that some good running backs are going to go in the 6th round.
And like what's on the board. Now, I like DeAndre Swift. I've been drafting this guy for years. I took him in the 2nd round 3 years ago. I took him pretty high last year. I love him in Chicago. People are afraid that the ball's going to go in different places, but I think Swift can really get it done.
Yeah, he definitely can get it done. He's in a good situation now. New quarterback, new weapons on the outside so that they can have the big wideouts and DJ Moore and Keenan Allen on each side and Kmet in the middle, and then he's going to have room to run because he's going to have space because they're not going to be able to pile 8 in the box.
Wow. Well, I can't wait for this season to play out. We had so many interesting storylines. We've been talking about it all summer, and really the end game could be where it's won or lost as well. Who are some of the guys late in the year draft that you find yourself taking?
Well, I just took Josh Palmer in the 13th round. And to me, that seemed like a number 1 starter was still there. And, everybody left there and he was good. And now he's going to have a bigger role. It just seemed like an easy one. We also saw the first kicker go in the 16th round, which I thought was a little bit early, right? You usually don't expect, with 5 rounds left that Justin Tucker is going to come off the board. But kickers get good points in these leagues, but I just didn't expect anybody to reach that far for them.
Yeah, if you're keeping score at home, it's 3.3 points for an extra point, and then the decimal scoring for the field goal. So 27-yard would be 2.7, 54-yard would be 5.4. So I was curious to see, and of course you could flex kickers.
Yeah.
So there's 6 flex positions here, and with injuries and bye weeks or whatnot, you got to fill out your team. So maybe not so crazy to draft multiple kickers or to reach a little.
Speaking of flex, Matt, I can see that Bobby Cable's draft has started down there. The second draft has begun. So it'd be interesting to see how it matches with this one to see whether or not, 6 quarterbacks going before McCaffrey seems a little bit sharp. We had 2 quarterbacks go, then McCaffrey, then 2 more quarterbacks in my league. So to me, it seems like when you could take a CJ Stroud and pass on Christian McCaffrey, I just think that's really brave.
Is this the Slimer League that we are finding? Is that the one that started? Which league is the one that Bobby Cables is in? Oh, did he tell us? He didn't tell us.
He did.
KGB?
KGB, that's right.
All right, well, that's the one that Scott Engel is in as well. Let's check out KGB. Did you see I feel like such a schmuck for not having seen Rounders. Is this a great movie?
You haven't seen Rounders?
I didn't see it.
Oh, that's crazy. It's crazy. Oh, I give you your money.
So this
It's your money.
Teddy KGB is a Rounders reference.
Oh, yes. It's John Malkovich playing a guy who runs an underground poker ring in Manhattan. And, and in order for Matt Damon's character to get his buddy out of trouble, played by Ed Norton, Worm, he has to beat him at poker.
Well, I'm going to put it on my list. And Sal Lito, this is the other Sal Lito. Sal's son is drafting in the 1 spot. Took Josh Allen. And then there you go, Rick. Christian McCaffrey, the running back, 2 off the board.
That's where he should go. He should go maybe 3 if you love Hurts that much. I can see Allen, Hurts, and then him. I can't see Mahomes before him and Stroud before him and Richardson before him. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, we saw 6 quarterbacks go off the board to start the Corleone draft. This draft goes Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, then CeeDee Lamb, Patrick Mahomes, Breece Hall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're seeing a lot different.
Yeah. And Bijan Robinson breaks all the rules for our smart system, Colton and I's smart system. So I won't be drafting him at all this year, even though I think he has a huge opportunity, huge upside. All of it's there, but you got to see a guy do it at least 1 year at that bell cow position before you start lining him up in your running back spot. We don't take any rookies at running back until later in the drafts, and we don't take anybody who hasn't had a big year. So when you're taking that first pick or that first and second running back, I told you Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley, even though they've been hurt, they've had huge seasons before. So where he hasn't had that 1,500-yard, 15-touchdown season.
Of course, we all learned from the smart system, the great Glenn Colton, another Hall of Famer. But you don't have anything in there on the football side about, coaching matters? You do have coaching in there?
What system matters?
Because now, system matters.
The
So
S and smart is system.
you've talked about the knocks on Bijan Robinson, but Arthur Smith moving out, a new coaching system coming in that's going to be drastically different, plus Kirk Cousins coming in. Where does that fall?
Well, Tyler Algiers isn't awful either, right? So, and they added weapons at wide receiver, and they still have Kyle Pitts at tight end. So I think they still have enough weapons. He's an explosive runner. He's also been hurt in every season he's been in the NFL, and I've got to see him do it. I got to see him do it for a whole season before I'm drafting him in the first or second round. It's just not happening for me.
Now, the decision of Bijan Robinson versus Breece Hall is a very difficult one for fantasy players, and I'm a Breece Hall guy. Now, Aaron Rodgers is going to run a slow offense. They are going to be deliberate. So the question is Aaron Rodgers' efficiency, right? I mean, he's going to break down that defense. He's going to make the right play, but he's going to run far less plays. Breece Hall's going to have less touches because of Aaron Rodgers' pace of play. Where do you stand on Breece Hall in this Jets offense?
Yeah, but isn't Rodgers a genius at checking out of a pass play into a running play?
No doubt.
So he'll see that check into the draw play, and he'll get better situations. Less carries maybe, but better situations.
I think so. And I think the Jets played very fast last year because they had to. And this year it's going to be a lot slower. We're waiting on the 9th pick here, and it hasn't come yet. So we'll have to see when that comes in here. Let's talk holiday gifts, because that's what we're all about, is raising money for gifts. And what did you receive when you were younger that stands out to you as a holiday gift?
Well, for me, it was coal every year in my stocking. So I'm super used to getting coal in the stocking. No, we didn't have big Christmases in my world when I was young, but I always loved to get the games. So especially the games that had big action to them. There was a game called Crossfire. It was basically BBs that you shot out of a gun in order to hit a cube and move it to the opponent's side till you scored a touchdown, basically. So that was probably my favorite gift. Maybe I was about 8 years old or so when I got that one.
And I was all about the Star Wars and the G.I. Joe. I remember getting a Tomcat fighter plane. Codename Ace was the G.I. Joe character that flew that. It was such a magnificent toy that really just lit up my whole year. And that's what holiday gifts can do. And there's a lot of kids out there that aren't able to receive gifts. They're in a tough situation. And fantasycares.org and the Scott Fish Bowl is raising money for Toys to Tots to give kids gifts when they normally wouldn't be able to have one. So very special here. And I know that means a lot to you.
Yeah, it does. It means a lot to me. And of course, the charity that the money from this live event is going to is Break the Hold. So breakhold.org and Scott Fish recognizes that youth wellness is very, very important, and suicide prevention, so that we can stop, the prolific nature of what's happening when young people try to take their own lives.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of causes out there, and you believe in a lot of them, Rick. I've learned a lot from you, and you've got a huge heart. And that's really, it's fun to have a good time with fantasy football, but we got to be serious and realize what's happening in this world. And we got to reach out and we got to be kind. And we've got to use our passion for good. And the testament to that is in this place, the Playwright Celtic right here on 45th and 8th in New York City, where everybody's here. No one's getting paid here. We're all here volunteers to have a good time and to raise some money. And you love this location. You introduced it to me. They do a great job. And you know all the hot spots in New York, Rick. So tell us why the Playwright Celtic means to you, Celtic.
Well, by the way, the Fitzpatrick family and their investment group owns 14 Irish pubs here. They own Legends. They own Jack Dempsey's. They own the 3 Playwrights. They own a handful of other ones. I love Legends also. For you sports fans there, especially you soccer, football fans, right? The Football Factory downstairs only shows soccer. So all international events, all the biggest events on Saturdays during the Premier League, it is a crazy place to be. People bring in drums and trumpets, and they're playing music every time their team scores, and it's just every jersey of every different Premier League team down there. And Legends is an awesome location as well, right at the base of the Empire State Building. So I got involved with this one because we had a Fantasy Alarm Christmas party here in 2014. So it's 10 years ago, and it was just fantastic. So
that's right. Come on in here. Let's say hello.
All right.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, man.
Introduce yourself. Come on in here. I remember you too. You've got a friendly face, and we had a good time. What was your name?
My name is Rodney, man.
Rodney,
I remember last year, man, I had a concussion back in 2018.
come this way.
And I think one thing that I was able to watch a lot of football, and I was able to realize that, like, it's okay to take some hard hits and bounce back from it, right? It's okay to recognize that, it's okay to have a couple of scars. It's okay to live your life. And, like, I love this organization, man. I love what it's able to do for people. I love Break the Hold. I love the fact that they're always supporting people. And then, like, anyone out there that's having tough times because of concussions or anything like that, I just want you to know that you are supported. And I hope that you seek out therapy, man, because they helped me out a lot.
Well, how wonderful is that to hear from you, Rodney? And are you here to draft? Are you here to support? Tell us what's happening.
Yeah, I got my eye on this Monra signed jersey, right? Unsigned jersey. It's XL signed, unsigned jersey. So Break the Hold, definitely a great organization, and I hope that you guys continue to support them and donate to them and show a lot of love to them.
Well, thank you. I've learned a lot from Break the Hold. I do their annual Into the Light walk in Pleasantville, New York, and we're growing these to other cities around the nation, and it's so special where the whole community of Pleasantville gathers around 3 a.m. in the darkness to support the families that have lost young people to suicide. And the whole town walks through Pleasantville, and as the sun comes up, the light draws in, and we sort of all walk into the light together. And it's such a spiritual, emotional experience, and really amazing to see all the kids recognize the fact that they need to come together for themselves and make sure their friends are okay. And what I've learned from Break the Hold, always make sure your friends are okay.
Yeah. I have to give us a lot of support. I remember last year I showed up. I wasn't even on the list. Shout out Coach JB Barry, man. He was the one that got me in last second to one of the leagues. I had so many cool people in my league. I had this one Chicago Bears reporter, and he had this stack of Justin Fields and Khalil, I think is the running back. He had an amazing draft last year, and I respected him a lot. I forget what his name was, but he was in my league, and I learned a lot from you guys. And, like, I just want to keep supporting you guys throughout it. And shout out Scott Fish. Yeah, his story and everything he's been through, and his sons. It's a great story, and I love everything he's been able to do. Yeah.
Scott Fish, of course, the winner of the Matthew Berry Game Changer Award,
shout out Matthew
has
Berry,
turned this
man.
industry upside down.
David
He's brought us
Falk.
all together, and there's nothing more powerful than the Scott Fish Bowl and fantasycares.org. Literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people getting together to harness their love for fantasy football and to channel it in a wonderful charitable direction to raise money for kids to get some holiday gifts. Are you going to draft fantasy football this season?
Yeah. I got some eyes on. I don't want to say it, but McCaffrey scored every single game for me last year, so I got a lot of loyalty to McCaffrey. I got a lot of faith in him, and I'm hoping he's able to bounce back this season.
Well, Rodney, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being here and helping us raise. We hope you get that Amon-Ra St. Brown jersey.
Yeah.
And you have to dig into your wallet.
That or the Colts game. I'll definitely be looking on that. So,
well, thank you for joining us. We'll see you around. Thank you very much. Cheers. Let's get Ryan Hallam in here from Fantasy Alarm. There's so many good people in the room, and it's so nice to have people come over and say hello to them and hear their story. And Ryan Hallam, what's your story? How did you get involved in the Scott Fish Bowl?
I don't even know, to be honest, how I ended up here. We kind of, saw Scott at the FSGA events, Rick and I, and one day afterwards I went to Rick. I was like, I want to do this. He's like, well, I know people who know restaurants. I'll get you the place, and we started brainstorming and doing things together. And now this is our second one. Both in a different venue, and God, it's so rewarding. All of it. It's a lot of work. 60 people drafting here, and I'm sure there's 15, 20 others that are here. So to coordinate this, it does take time, but it's just the thousands of dollars we raise for charity, the networking and the camaraderie people have here, and it's just, it makes me feel really good at the end of the day. And then, it's become a family thing for me. My daughter Morgan, she wrote all the names on the draft boards, and she helped me with the swag bags. My other daughter Avery, she did some of these silent auction graphics for me.
Wow.
I want to bring my brother in, who comes down here and helps every year, do all the grunt work and come down and do it. And maybe he's not going to come over here, but here he comes.
You can bring him in here. Why don't you interview your brother?
It's really become a family event for me on top of everything else.
Grab this, Scott.
And So it is. It's just fantastic, and I really appreciate it. So I don't know that you've ever actually been live streamed on the internet before, but
Well, probably not. I just want to let you know. I just sent Mom a picture of you on the radio, so maybe you can move up to like almost second favorite son.
I am not the favorite son.
Not by a long shot.
Come on in a little more. There's the screen.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So this is my brother Scott. He. God, I have so many things I could say, but I'm not going to.
Well, be careful.
But I appreciate the fact that you come down and help me with this, even though you almost bailed on me a couple days ago. But
well, there was a death.
you
but
were-
I mean, I made it.
True. So, unfortunately, I guess we'll talk about the Cowboys.
Okay.
Maybe we'll talk about the catch. Would you like to talk about the catch?
No, I would not like to talk about the catch ever again. In my life.
I thought we were going to have a signed picture of that, but it didn't end up happening.
That
But
was So when there was a death, my brother said to me, "I will sweeten the pot if you can come down by buying you this Dwight Clark autograph picture." Was it autographed?
yeah, it was autographed.
Was it autographed?
Yeah.
And he passed away, didn't he?
Dwight Clark? No.
No.
Oh, maybe he
I
did.
think he did.
Oh, yeah, I think
he
you're
did.
right.
Yep.
But yes, as a Cowboys fan,
Yep.
they put you through a lot of pain.
Yes.
They haven't won a Super Bowl since.
Since I believe last time they won a Super Bowl, I was a young college student and living in Hood Hall in Plattsburgh,
That's right.
New York, with a full head of hair, a hockey mullet, as a matter of fact. And the championships are gone, and the hair is gone, and Dallas has been a train wreck forever.
I mean, not really a train wreck.
Not a train wreck,
But
but I would almost rather than be a train wreck because it's like it's the same thing as being a Mets fan. It's like just you get that hope every year, and then you get like look at the end of last year. Was last year where Zeke got rolled? And I mean, come on,
I think that was the year
That was the
before.
year before. But last year was just as bad. We make Jordan Love look like I think they're calling you over there.
Oh, I don't know. They're gonna have to do something. Rick, this is live in case you
This is
couldn't
live.
tell.
I can hold it together for a little
All right.
while if you want me to.
I'm gonna have to go see what's going on. But
Okay.
Anyway, go talk about the Cowboys.
Okay. Yeah. So Dallas this year looks like it's going to be another. So Rick's coming back in, and welcome. I think they're all live.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. Good stuff. So
Thank you.
You drafting today?
I am not drafting today. I am just helping organize and doing whatever needs to be done. It's my one or two trips to the city.
When
for
is
the
your
year.
draft?
My draft is next weekend. It's a keeper league we've had for years. It's not in the fish.
Not in the Fish Bowl. We got to get you in that.
Yeah, you can get me in that. I'd be more than happy. But I came down last year for the first time and was just so impressed and like everyone's generosity and the nature and the spirit of the event. Everybody's so thankful and friendly. And even today, coming down here and just seeing everybody, it's like a big family. I'm seeing a lot of the same people I saw last year.
This industry's been that way. I've been in this industry a very, very long time, and helping start the trade association. And it's always been sort of a family reunion every time we all get together, and that's because people care about each other genuinely and their causes. I mean, Scott Fish the money from today, the live event, is going to my charity, Break the Hold, which helps with youth wellness and suicide prevention.
Yep. I remember last year you had a very moving speaker.
Yes,
at
Brian
the event.
Holleran. Yes, Brian Holleran's here. Yes.
It was touching what he had to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough story. Like, that you get that knock on the door and with the police there telling you that your son has taken his own life, and then the very next day you start a foundation in order to help other people who might be in that situation again. He and his wife are the bravest people that I know, and now they're in 19 schools teaching dialectical behavior therapy to kids so that they can understand when negative thoughts come into their head, we can turn those into positive thoughts.
So what ages? Where do they start?
They're mostly in high school. They fit right into the 10th grade health class. So what you normally expect to have as your health class is now 16 hours of it is DBT training.
Okay.
In those schools. So, and we're in one middle school. It happens to be the school of the town that we live in.
Okay.
So they of course embrace this more because two young men took their own lives.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this day and age, the way that things are in middle school is probably a great place to start. There's so much pressure on kids, like the stuff that we didn't experience when we were growing up. It's obviously social media and so much strain.
Here's a funny one, right? So, like, if you were bullied in middle school, which I was the geek, math geek, physics club, chess guy, right?
Yeah.
So if you were geeked, if you were bullied, You just avoided the bully.
Yeah, right. Correct.
You can't avoid him in cyberspace.
Right.
You can't avoid them.
You only had 8 hours a day or whatever the school day was. And
Exactly.
You were home and you were safe.
And all you had to do was cleanly walk a different way. And since you were smart enough, you'd figure out a different way to go to class and you wouldn't get bullied.
You're right.
Now you get bullied online, you get bullied from friends, you get bullied in text messages.
Yep.
I mean, all of this stuff makes it much, much harder for kids to feel not good enough. And so it's all about self-esteem. It's all about understanding you're special. There's something great about every human.
Mm-hmm.
And so as long as we can make people understand that and then teach them these techniques that allow them. I found out that my technique is just a smile. Like if I smile, like negative thoughts are in my head about, I'm a failure or whatever. If I just smile, then, and some people say, you smile a lot. And I said, good. That means I'm struggling today.
Yeah. You don't want to know what the other option is. But I think that's a great idea. I mean, that's something like kids don't know. It's like how to deal, like to give them, a lifeline. Like what do I do if I need to deal?
Matty Deutsch, you coming back in with me? Thank you very much for joining us.
No problem.
Thank you very much for all you're doing for Scott Fishbowl.
Woo! We got the drafts are winding down and more are starting up. It's a full day of draft coverage here. Let's take a look at this draft over here for all the people at home. We're moving down deep into the depths of the ninth round here. Dallas got it on the board.
Now it gets interesting because this is where those last quarterbacks are being taken, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe they're gonna roll the dice on Deshaun Watson, or like you said, on Aaron Rodgers, he's gonna be a game manager trying to win, and making that the one or two throws, and I think he's gonna be great, but he's not gonna be great statistically. He's gonna be 3,000 yards and 25 touchdowns, and 3,500 yards and 25 touchdowns, and that's gonna be plenty, right? So anyway, you see guys grabbing these guys now, McCarthy, Mayfield, and all these guys going in the 8th and 9th rounds.
Now we get into the end for the quarterbacks, and here's what you're looking at home. Will Levis, Geno Smith, Derek Carr, Bryce Young. We'll put Russell Wilson and Daniel Jones in there. Throw Drake May out, maybe not start right away. We know we can get guys like Justin Fields and whatnot who don't have a full share of the offense. But looking at Levis, Geno, Carr, Bryce Young, Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson. Who are you taking there?
I'm taking none of them. I told you I took 3 quarterbacks in the first 10 rounds to make sure I wouldn't have to. And that happened to be my strategy, right? I did plan to get one more tight end, but instead I took 4 running backs and only took 1 wide receiver, and then all wide receivers. I took 6 rounds in a row wide receivers now, right? And you can get great value in these late rounds in the wide receiver position. So.
Now, don't you think Will Levis in this new Tennessee offense, added Calvin Ridley, no more Derrick Henry, defense is not good. I could see this Tennessee team really running a fast-paced offense with Will Levis. We don't lose that many points or interceptions. What do you think of the Titans?
I mean, you don't see it till it starts, right? I mean, what did they say last year? Like, Cliff Kingsbury is going to bring Arizona to the high-flying offense that he has. Yeah, how'd that work out? So, don't you have to see it first?
We saw Kyler Murray have a strong season with Kingsbury, and I think that's where the Jaden Daniels hope is with Kingsbury coming in here. When it comes to Tennessee, we got to see it. Now, what about Pittsburgh? This is my storyline. I mean, I think they're going to run slow. Najee, maybe a little Jalen Warren, try to get the ball deep to George Pickens with what Russell Wilson likes to do is throw deep and check down. But if this team struggles, can't you see a lightning bolt like Justin Fields come in here and change the whole dynamic?
I mean, yeah, and also Russell getting older. He was not good at all in Denver, and so I think he could end up being replaced if he can't do it, and then Fields would be the guy. And Fields had moments. His accuracy was the problem, and so is that something that can be fixed with some mechanics? Can they work on his mechanics for 2 or 3 months and then fix that? I mean, we've seen quarterbacks get accurate after they weren't accurate. Can't he figure that out?
I mean, Arthur Smith is going to be his job to figure it out. Now, I was on Fields as not only the QB1 last year, but the overall the overall player number one. I fell in love with the long runs from 2022, and it just never materialized. And I got that one wrong, which is what happens in fantasy football sometimes. But I'll never quit the players that I fall in love with, and that don't do that at home either. But how do you handle that, Rick, where you scout these players, you know you've got something, baseball or football, but they don't perform? Are you penalizing them the next year because they hurt you?
It depends. You got to go look and see what they're doing. Like, did their speed get slower, or in baseball, did the velocity go down? Is their swinging strike right? What's their first pitch strike like? Is their ground ball rate the same? What's the BABIP for them? Were they just getting lucky? You can figure it out with sabermetrics that are available in baseball. In football, you have to watch. I mean, you have to watch the guys. Doesn't have as much acceleration, even though they say his speed is the same, right? You can see it on the field. For instance, happened a couple years with Stafford right after the Super Bowl run and win. He had kind of happy feet for like 4 or 5 games after getting hit really hard, and they had to get him back righted. And sometimes you can see, and especially in a quarterback or a running back, he's not hitting the hole. That you watch film on the running backs, if they're not accelerating into the hole, that means they took a hit at some point and they're a little bit squeamish, right? And you want guys who study, because I think I've told you this before. The way you study is by numbers. So you know that number 45 on Arizona, who you're facing this week, has a left tendency. If he has a left tendency, when you see his number, you cut to the right. It's fairly simple stuff that guys just need to execute on. And so you need to see that. You need to see that on film.
And the same thing holds for players that you're out on. Are you always out on them, or are there players 1 year you say I'm out, but then a few years later you're back? Because I don't do that. When I'm out on a player, I am out.
It depends, right? So, but for baseball for the most part, if I'm out on a guy, I'm always out because there's so many guys right after him. So, and you really won't miss that much. Even if he has like an explosion out, you'll have somebody else who explodes, a breakout. In football, you can miss it. Like if you hate a guy and you don't go get that guy who explodes, he wins leagues, right? Especially late in the season. If he's a week 13, 14, 15, 16 guy, he wins your league, right?
It could be a league winner in the 8th round of the Corleone draft of Scott Fishbowl 14. So we didn't see a lot in 6 and 7. So in the 8th round, the running backs started popping. Zamir White, Tajay Spears, David Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Najee Harris. Followed in the 9th round, Jonathan Brooks, Devin Singletary, and Austin Eckler. So it seems like this is the sweet spot. I don't know what I'm doing taking Singletary in the 6th round when he just went in the 9th round in this league.
Catch this. Eckler just said that he wants to return kicks. So that gives him points in this league. It wouldn't give other players. I took Eckler, I think, in this same round. I think it's just a good – if he does end up returning kicks, it can be like a touchdown every time he returns one.
How is Washington putting him back there to return kicks? We need this guy. I'm a Washington fan.
I heard him say that, and I saw it on the depth chart, and he was on my short list of 8 players I had who I said – are the starter and will either return punts or kicks with Jalen Reed and the other guys I mentioned before, right? Shaheed and Shakir.
Another running back went, Raheem Mostert, in the 9th round of Scott Fishbowl. So, credit to all these teams that waited. I don't have that kind of patience. I needed to fill out my running backs a little bit sooner, but it looks like there's really good values in this Corleone draft. Let's take a look at the other one.
I like the Zach Moss pick there, too. Zach Moss is going to be in a situation where if he's as good as Joe Mixon, he's going to be as good as Joe Mixon. So I think you can plug and play Zach Moss and expect him to have Mixon-like output.
Now we're looking at the Teddy KJB draft. We're live at the Playwright Celtic on 45th and 8th. Scott Fishbowl live fantasy football draft party, raising money for charity, fantasycares.org. And this draft's now in the 5th round. We've already said how different it was, where it wasn't as QB heavy, first 6 spots. And what happens now is you start to see the quarterbacks on teams 7 through 12 a little bit differently shake out. So this is really spread out pretty well. So we are through 5 full rounds. Here are the amount of teams and their quarterbacks. So, and we'll just say the beginning of the 6th round. Team 1 has 2 quarterbacks. Team 2 has 2 quarterbacks. Team 3 has 1. Team 4 has 2. Team 5 has 1. Team 6 has 1. Then 2, 1, 2, 0 for Bobby Cables, who said he was going to wait on quarterback. And the team next to him has 3. and then the final team has 2. So we have one team with 3 quarterbacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams, half the league with 2 quarterbacks, and one team has no quarterbacks.
See, you know what that is? And this happened in my draft too. 3 teams had no quarterbacks through the 6th round, and I took a 3rd quarterback to punish them.
Yeah.
And this is what happened here too. He takes Jared Goff to punish Bobby Cables because he's probably at the table going, I'll just get Goff. And the guy next to him was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to take him from you. And he punished him for waiting. So then he didn't take, he took Deebo Samuel instead of taking quarterback.
Looking at how to build a team without a quarterback in a Superflex league, Bobby Cables, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase to start, then Jonathan Taylor, Isaiah Pacheco, then Deebo Samuel. So a classic 2 running back, 3 receiver start. Tight ends, we don't need them. It's a premium league, but Bobby Cables doesn't need a quarterback. He doesn't need a tight end. He's really flipping it upside down.
Yeah, but let me tell you this. This is something that I think drafters miss. Just because there's a super flex spot doesn't mean you have to play a quarterback there. So if you load up there and you have consistent running backs, especially, who are going to get you 20 points, and you have quarterbacks who are going to get you between 15 and 25, you take the stability away. You take the upside away, but you get the stability instead of having to play a quarterback at that slot. And I did that a lot last year and was successful with it.
Wise words from the Hall of Famer Rick Wolf. You've seen it all. We're going to sign off soon. We got to ask you this. With best ball coming into our industry, it's been amazing. We're drafting teams really from February on. But as soon as the NFL draft hits, it's best ball season. And teams have done all the math and figured out the algorithms. And I guess you have to stack in a league like that. You have to pair up your quarterback with a running back, and that has changed the way we're drafting in redraft league. Everybody's still trying to stack. Do you answer the question, Rick Wolf? Do I need to take the receiver from the same quarterback? Do I need a quarterback wide receiver hookup to win a big? This is a tournament. It's not a 12-team league. Tournament. Do I need to stack?
The thing about these leagues that have points for the final weeks of the season, you need to look at the schedule, and I call it strength of schedule fantasy playoffs. So we take a look at the teams that are best in that, and then you take the best athletes in those, and then you target those positions. So, Kansas City had a great schedule last year. So pairing Mahomes with Kelsey and even with wide receiver Juju made sense, right? So you got to look at the schedule first. I can't believe it's the middle of July and I haven't, but I don't have the answer there for you. But that's what I'm going to do when I start diving into lots of best balls. I've only played 2 best balls so far.
Well, keep watching. We'll be back at 5 Eastern. Come on down to the Playwright Celtic if you're in the area and have some fun with us. We've got a lot more fantasy football to talk about. We're raising money. You can do that right now at fantasycares.org. They make it really easy. You just go to that website and hit donate, and you're gonna get some holiday gifts for kids, and they're gonna put a smile on their face. So really appreciate the Scott Fish Bowl organization allowing us to draft live in New York at the Playwright Celtic, a fantastic organization, an amazing location. Thank you, Rick, for putting this all together.
Yeah. And one more thing. It's very important. You ready?
Ready. Don't miss the SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio live coverage at 3 Eastern with the Professor Anthony Aniano and the King, Scott Engel. And we'll be back at 5 Eastern. Scott Fish Bowl 14 worldwide coming to you live from New York City. It's been a hoot, and hope everybody enjoys their day. Have a great fantasy.